So with The Predator coming out in only a couple of days, I figured I'd give my thoughts on the rest of the Predator movies. This includes the first two, the AVP movies, even though they're not considered canon anymore, but whatever, and Predators. Also spoilers for all these movies, but there'll be time codes in the description, so if you haven't seen one of the movies, you can skip to another. Alright, let's get into this. So first up we have the original Predator. This film is an action classic, and it's pretty easy to see why. Let's start off with the positives, and there is quite a lot to go through. First off, the cast is great, especially Carl Weathers, Shane Black, and of course Arnold Schwarzenegger. All the characters have their own distinct personalities, but not to an extent where they're all over-the-top caricatures, which a lot of 80s action heroes were. This movie's also really well directed, it's well paced, the action scenes are all great even to this day, and I love how it starts off as this extremely over-the-top action war movie, and then slowly turns into a sci-fi thriller. Also, the way the Predator looks, it's just phenomenal. Not just the badass design, but the way the costume looks and moves overall, it's just like a real living creature, it's incredible. Sure, there are some close-up shots of the hands that make it pretty clear it's just a guy wearing a big rubber suit, but when you see the Predator's face for the first time,
you're one ugly motherfucker.
It's incredible. Just the way the mouth moves, it looks so natural, and I'd argue that none of the sequels so far have had a Predator mask that looks as lifelike as the one in this. The movie's premise, an outer space alien hunts down a team of commandos for sport in a jungle. I'll admit, it sounds really dumb. But it's executed so well that you won't really think about how dumb it sounds. You're just really invested in it. Maybe the way the premise sounded is why critics didn't like it initially. The movie actually still has only a 45 score on Metacritic. As for the negatives, there isn't a lot to go through here. There's the part when Dutch figures out that the Predator only shoots you when you have a gun. Like, how did he figure that out? I know he probably figured it out because Anna was right next to Hawkins when he got killed, and the Predator could have easily killed her too, but he might have spared her life for any number of reasons. Maybe the Predator has a rule against killing women, or maybe you need to attack the Predator first for it to attack you, just don't know. It was really just a lucky guess that he was right, and then he uses the information to make sure the Predator doesn't kill him. I don't know, I just thought that it was kind of dumb. And this is just a nitpick, but when Dutch falls into the waterfall, he's out of focus, and it took me right out of the scene. But it's not really that big of a deal, it's just one shot in the movie. Overall, Predator is a fantastic movie. It's got great performances, witty dialogue.
You're bleeding, man.
I ain't got time to bleed.
Oh. Okay.
And some incredible action effects, especially for the time. I'm gonna give it a 9.6 out of 10. So, Predator 2 is a bit of a mixed bag. The first half of the movie is similar to the first half of the original Predator, but way more crazy. Where the first film disguised itself as a basic action movie, this just cranks it up to 11. The film takes place in Los Angeles in a dark and desolate future of 1997, where crime runs rampant. There are shootouts in the streets, and for some reason news reporters are there, like right in the middle of it, and they're also being shot at. And all the cops are incredibly aggressive and also incredibly stupid.
Hey, asshole!
They could have so easily shot you. Oh, whatever. Speaking of, I really didn't like any of the characters in this, because no one acts anything like a real person. You know what I said about the first movie and how it managed to avoid its characters from becoming over-the-top caricatures? Yeah, well, this one is the opposite of that. Everyone is really over the top in this, and while it's entertaining, it didn't make me care whether or not they died. That said, I did like all the performances in this, with everyone just chewing up the scenery and hamming it up, and it keeps you invested in the movie, even though I'm not sure that was the filmmaker's intent. There's still some good action and effects, and I did really like the Los Angeles setting, instead of just making it a jungle again. This movie also expands on the Predator lore the way movies should do. It's not just a character explaining everything, instead it's all shown. We see all the new weapons, we see how the Predator heals itself and who it refuses to kill. Just by reading the date of the flintlock pistol, we know that predators have been hunting on Earth for a long time. We also see a xenomorph skull, which is such a great Easter egg. But considering what it led to, I kinda hate it now. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Overall, Predator 2 isn't bad at all, but doesn't really come close to the quality of the first film. I'm gonna give it a 6.5 out of 10. So AVP, Alien vs Predator, isn't that good, or really that bad. It's right in the middle. I wouldn't say anything in the film is terrible, but nothing is great either. All the characters are uninteresting, but they're not unlikable. The script isn't mind-blowing, but it's not painfully stupid. The acting, the effects, the directing, it's neither here nor there. The actual Alien vs Predator fights are pretty entertaining to watch, and there's some good practical effects, along with some god-awful CGI. There's really only one aspect about this movie that I didn't like, and it's that it doesn't feel like there was any authenticity behind it. It feels like the studio was in complete control, and granted, depending on what the studio wants, it doesn't always end up with a bad film. But most of the time, it does end up with a film that plays it too safe and doesn't take any risks. And that's exactly what this is. It's the most generic sci-fi movie plot in history, with aliens and predators just dropped right in there. And enough fan service to please the fans. Except it's PG-13, so we end up with stuff like this instead.
You are one ugly mother.
Overall, Alien vs Predator is fine, but there's absolutely nothing memorable about it. I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10. Aliens vs Predator Requiem, I guess Fox thought that sounded cool, is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. It's up there with Transformers Age of Extinction and Shark Boy and Lava Girl. Let's start off with the positives. There's nothing really. I mean, the camera was recording and there were actors, kind of. A movie was made, I'll give them that, even though it's a huge piece of crap. It was written, filmed, edited, and released. That's worth a point, I guess. Alright, let's just get straight into the negatives, because there is a lot. In fact, it's basically just the entire movie. It's damn near impossible to sit through this movie. The characters are unlikable and act nothing like real people, the plot is stupid, xenomorphs just don't belong in some suburban neighborhood. It just doesn't look scary at all. The action sucks, and the whole movie is so dark. I don't mean tonally dark, but the lighting is just so underexposed. Especially during the action scenes, you can barely see anything. We never even get one good look at the Alien-Predator hybrid. The effects are garbage, we actually see the Predator homeworld for the first time in this, and it looks like complete crap. The action scenes avoid physics like the plague, and it comes across as laughable. You also don't care what happens because all the characters are unrelatable, and the acting is terrible.
Get out of here. Now I'm gonna buy some time. I'm not leaving you. Get to the chopper.
You don't have to do this, Dallas.
Aliens vs Predator Requiem is absolutely horrible. Everything about it sucks. Just for this movie alone, it makes me glad that everyone over at Fox are losing their jobs. To be clear, that was a joke. I'm gonna give it a 1 out of 10, which is my lowest rating because IMDb doesn't let you rate a 0. Finally, I get to talk about a good one again. Predators is a pretty good movie. It's not perfect, but it's infinitely better than that other thing. Get that out of here, I don't even want to see the poster. Let's just talk about Predators, starting off with the positives. First off, the cast all do a great job. Adrian Brody gives a great performance. Same goes for Alice Braga, Mahershala Ali, Oleg Taktarov, and Danny Trejo. The main standout though is Walton Goggins, just because he is Walton Goggins. Seriously though, he gives a fantastic performance in this. Lawrence Fishburne also gives a pretty weird performance that's really entertaining to watch. And Topher Grace is also surprisingly great.
All of you!
There's also little details that I appreciated, like the updated invisibility. It's cool to think that the Predator technology becomes more and more advanced, just like ours does. There's also some great action, and they make perfect use of that glowing green blood. Also, unlike the AVP films, you actually care who wins a Predator versus Predator fight, because in this, it means Royce and Isabel will be able to go back to Earth. Also, even though I didn't like the execution of it, the twist that Topher Grace is a serial killer actually works, because before then, you just assume the Predators chose him to be the medic, because he says he's a doctor. As for the negatives, however, even though this movie is good, a lot of that is because it borrows directly from the first film. There are some scenes that are just recreated in this movie, like the Do It scene, but without that glorious Austrian accent. The music was good through most of it, because they reused the same theme music from the original, but near the end of the film, it had some basic stock action music playing over it, and it wasn't that great. Isabel also somehow knew about the events of the first movie, which was kinda dumb. The characters also don't get any new information because of this. Also, Royce and Isabel aren't very interesting characters, and they're also pretty unlikable. But you end up rooting for them because you know the Predators are worse. Overall, Predators is a pretty good movie. It takes a few too many elements from the first film, but that may have actually worked to the movie's advantage, because it's definitely the best of the sequels so far. I'm gonna give it a 7.9 out of 10. Okay, now to rank them from worst to best. At number 5, aka the worst, is, of course, Aliens vs. Predator Requiem. At number 4 is Alien vs. Predator. At number 3 is Predator 2. Number 2 is Predators, and number 1 is still the original Predator. Anyway, that's how I'd rank the Predator films. Thanks for watching, I really appreciate it. If you want, you can follow me on Twitter at CinemaGeekYT. Leave a like and subscribe for more videos like this one.